Ever read a love letter so real, so raw, it felt like someone tore open their chest and handed you their heart, still beating? Not one of those fluff and glitter Instagram captions. I'm talking about a soul-punching confession sealed in silence, for years then dropped like an emotional bomb. That's what happened when young Jock, yes, that Jock, opened a matte black envelope with nothing but his real name, Jay-Z Robinson, written on it. No emojis, no glitter, no dramatic intro. Just truth waiting to explode. What he found inside wasn't a threat, a scandal, or a check. It was worse. It was 4 pages of handwritten heartbreak final words from the woman who once stood solid through every headline, every wig, every public mistake. Khadiyah K.D. Lewis. Her handwriting was neat, steady, like she'd been holding it together, even when her soul wasn't. The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. They were a whisper wrapped around a scream. And they made Jock collapse. Literally, on the floor. Like a man who realized too late he'd missed the last train to redemption. The letter wasn't some viral PR move. It wasn't leaked by a messy assistant or hawked to the blogs for clicks. It was hidden away, buried deep in a box labeled private. The kind people label not because they're hiding shame, but because what's inside is too precious for this world. No one knew about it, not Jock, not Katie's friends, not even her family, not until her brother found it going through her things after her funeral. That's how long she'd kept it sealed. Years, just sitting there, waiting for a moment no one saw coming. Jock didn't just cry, he unraveled. Because this wasn't "I miss you" scribbled in pink ink. This was a soul trying to make peace before the body gave out. And the first line, it scorched, "I always loved you. I just never knew how to show it." Boom, silence. And then the world exploded. Twitter caught fire. TikTok spun it into a trend with crying voiceovers and melancholic filters. Facebook aunties were clutching pearls like it was the second coming of Nicholas Sparks. But this wasn't closure. This was confession, a confession that peeled the skin off a wound Jock had been pretending didn't exist. To understand why that line split the internet in half, you've got to rewind. Back to the early 2010s, before the viral baby mama interviews, before the rainbow, mohawks and messy reunion specials. Back when Jock was just climbing, and KD was just watching. They met through business. KD wasn't chasing cameras, she was chasing contracts. Sharp, focused, allergic to drama. But somehow, drama still found her, because she fell in love with a man who hadn't stopped performing long enough to figure out who he really was. She didn't just hold him down, she held him up. Behind the scenes, while he was making jokes and headlines, KD was cutting checks, scheduling meetings, handling the stuff that didn't get you trending but kept the lights on. She never asked for the spotlight. She just cleaned up the mess after it moved on. It worked. For a while, in 2014, they hit the Love and Hip Hop screen, together, thick as thieves, laughing through the madness, building ventures, dodging the chaos. But here's the thing about loving someone who keeps giving pieces of themselves away to strangers: you start to disappear. Slowly, silently, until even your own reflection doesn't recognize you. Jock's cheating wasn't secret. It was spectacle. KD didn't rant, didn't expose, she didn't even subtweet. She just left quietly. No cameras, no closure, just gone. But that's the thing about heartbreak, it doesn't stop with distance. Because even after she left, they couldn't fully disconnect. Jock would send flowers on her birthday. KD would view his stories from a burner account. They'd text, then not text, then text again. Always dancing on the edge of what could have been. In 2018, something shifted. Jock got serious. He told a friend he was flying to Houston to propose. He bought a ring, a whole damn ring. Said he was tired of playing. But 3 days before the flight, he canceled. Said she deserved someone who didn't have to lose her to love her. That line, it buried fans alive. Because for a second, it seemed like redemption was possible. But time waits for no one. And for Jock, it ran out. Early 2024, KD got sick. Not Instagram sick, not sympathy post sick. Sick something rare, quiet, unforgiving. She told no one, not even her closest people. No pray for me posts, no pity, just peace. And in that silence, she started writing. Not for headlines, not for revenge, for closure, for clarity, for her soul. She wrote letters. One of them was to Jock. The letter wasn't angry, wasn't bitter. It didn't throw shade or receipts. It was honest, devastatingly so. She wrote, "I thought we had more time, But I've been loving you in silence since the day I walked away. That sentence, it cracked the timeline wide open. But then, came the video. Yeah, you read that, right? KD didn't just write him a letter. She left a video, tucked inside the box with the letter, on a silver flash drive, taped shut with a sticky note that read, "Only press play when you're ready to know everything." And for 3 days, Jock couldn't bring himself to do it. He wasn't scared of what she'd say. He was scared of finally hearing it. When he did press play, it was like opening a door you knew led to a hurricane. The screen lit up with her face. No glam, no filters. Hair tied up, hoodie on, eyes hollow but peaceful. She looked done, like a woman who had carried enough weight for a lifetime and was finally ready to put it down. "If you're watching this, I'm gone," she said, "and you finally opened the box. I was afraid you never would." Jock said nothing, didn't move, just stared, like if he blinked, she'd vanish. "You are the love of my life," she whispered, "but you were never mine." And that line, that one line, it snatched the breath from every corner of the internet. You could hear jaws hitting floors in every time zone. She went on, talked about how he always came back, broken, cheated on, drained, chaotic, and how she patched him up. Every time, then watched him leave again. Every time, but there was no hate in her voice. No blame, just release. "This isn't about guilt," she said. "I'm not haunting you, I'm freeing you. Don't chase ghosts. Jock, don't rewrite what was, just live." That message. That wasn't just for Jock. That was for everyone. Every woman who poured herself into someone who couldn't catch what she was offering. Every man who realized too late that silence isn't absence, it's exhaustion. Then the story flipped. Hard because just as people started mourning this lost love, KD's cousin Tamara dropped a grenade on Twitter. "Y'all acting like Jock," was the only one she wrote to. One tweet. That's all it took. Suddenly, internet sleuths went into FBI mode. Who else got a letter? Who else was in the picture? That's when the name Marcus D surfaced. No clout, no scandal, no messy reality TV clips, just peace. The ant to Jock, and fans went deep, found a 2021 photo of KD at dinner, candlelight, a man's hand in hers. Caption, "Real peace, real vibes, no clout." That man, Marcus, theories flew. Was he the rebound? The real one? Her final love? Then someone leaked a page from her private journal. The entry read, "You were my wild love. He was my soft love." That's when it hit. KD had 2 love stories. And she never truly let go of either. But here's the twist: Marcus stayed silent. No interviews, no crying lives, no podcast tours. Just one Instagram bio update. "I already loved her through it." 5 words. And they hit harder than any tribute post ever could. The internet fractured. Half said KD should have chosen Marcus, half said Jock was her true love, even if he fumbled it. But the truth, she never asked to be chosen. She made peace with not being anyone's final act. She just wanted to love without losing herself. And just when you thought that was the peak, KD's family found one more thing. In a garment bag, deep in her attic, was a wedding dress, custom, designed in 2019. No engagement, no fiancé, just hope. Inside the box, a note. "If he ever comes back, I want to be ready." Let that settle in your chest. She wasn't planning a wedding. She wasn't dropping hints. She just never stopped hoping. Quietly, completely, alone. Jock didn't finish her video. Couldn't. He collapsed in the studio. Again, no cameras, no sound, just a man unraveling. Because sometimes, grief isn't loud. It's just the absence of everything you thought you had time to fix. And while the world kept debating who loved who more, something shifted in the background. Jock stopped posting. Stopped partying. He disappeared. Rumors swirled. Was he spiraling? Plotting a comeback? No, he was grieving. Privately, quietly, honestly. And then the whispers started. About an album, not a rollout, not a flex. A tribute, a full-length album called Black Envelope. Not for fans. Not for charts. Just for her. Just for her. Jock didn't touch a mic for 3 weeks after the letter. Not even to hum. And when he finally walked into the booth, it wasn't to lay down a hit. There were no engineers, no producers, no hype crew leaning over billboards. It was just him, a mic, and the ghost of a woman who'd loved him quietly while the world screamed over his chaos. He whispered something before pressing record. The studio captured it. "This ain't for fans. This for her. For the one who stayed when I didn't deserve it." That line never made the final cut, but the engineer leaked the raw memo days later, and that's when it hit the world. Jock wasn't chasing redemption. He was chasing peace. The kind that doesn't get likes or streams. The kind you only find when everything else falls away and you finally see what you lost. The internet did what it does. It exploded. Some people praised him. Others dragged him for being too late. But he didn't respond. No tweets, no PR. Just silence. Because grief isn't performance, it's private. And this wasn't about attention. This was a man trying to make sense of something irreversible. KD's name began trending again. Not because of scandal, but because her goodbye became a mirror so many people couldn't look away from. Women flooded threads with confessions. I was KD too. Men admitted they'd let go of their KD once, never realizing she was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. The love letter went viral. Again, screenshots, voiceovers, animations, AI narrations of her letter with music in the background. But what no one could duplicate was the weight of her silence. She didn't write it to go viral. She wrote it to let go. Then came the second wave of shock. Someone posted a leaked photo of KD's handwritten poem folded behind her wedding dress. A second note. This one wasn't for Jock. It wasn't addressed to Marcus either. It was just a raw, open wound on paper. 4 lines. I loved you both in different ways. One brought me fire, one helped me breathe. That poem broke people, because it confirmed what everyone had been dancing around. KD hadn't chosen. Not because she couldn't, but because love, real love, sometimes doesn't ask you to. It just is. Messy, beautiful, unbalanced, and real. People started asking bigger questions. Can you love 2 people at once? Can peace and passion coexist? Or do we always trade one for the other? And somewhere in the middle of that storm, Marcus spoke. Not on a podcast. Not in a blog. Just a photo. He posted a picture of KD's favorite book tattered, spine cracked, corners bent. Their eyes were watching God. A story of a woman learning to love on her own terms. The caption read, "She knew how to carry love like a secret. No tags, no hashtags, no explanation." And yet, it said everything. Fans connected the dots. KD hadn't lived for applause. She hadn't even lived for understanding. She'd lived for truth, and she'd told hers. In letters. In poems. In the silence she wrapped around her hurt like a second skin. Meanwhile, Jock finished the album. He recorded it between midnight and 4 a.m., always alone. He called it Black Envelope. 12 tracks. Each one titled after a memory, a regret, a moment he couldn't get back. No features, no skips. Just grief, honesty, and pain pressed into vinyl. Track titles leaked one by one. She waited soft. Love Attic Dust Wild Love Interlude. The Dress If I'd Stayed. Each title hit like a sledgehammer. And by the time the preview clips dropped, fans were already mourning a relationship they never even lived. One lyric from Attic Dust went viral before the song even launched. I kept chasing new names. While hers turned to dust in the attic. That line, pure devastation. And yet, through it all, Marcus stayed silent. But then came something that felt like fate. A voicemail, left on his phone 2 weeks before KD passed. She said, "If you see Jock, tell him thank you. For loving me. Even when he didn't know how. And tell him I never stopped." 10 seconds. That's it, but those 10 seconds reshattered the internet. Because it wasn't just about love, it was about grace. She didn't go to her grave bitter. She went grateful. And that kind of peace. That's the rarest thing of all. Marcus never posted the voicemail, but he saved it. And, according to insiders, he played it every morning for a month straight. Not to hurt himself, but to remind himself he'd loved someone who left nothing unsaid. And while the world kept debating who deserved her more, Jock disappeared again, not to hide, but to heal. Rumors say he checked into a retreat. No phones, no music, no mirrors. Just time. Time to be Jay, not Jock. The man, not the myth. And when he returned, it wasn't with press, it was with presence. He visited Katie, mother, brought her lilies, sat in the kitchen for 2 hours. Said nothing about music, just asked questions. Listened, grieved with her. Then quietly, he made a choice. He pulled the album. Yep, you heard that right, Black Envelope never hit streaming. He canceled the release days before it went live. Told the label he'd made it. For her, not for us. That if people wanted to hear the story, they could go read the letter. The real one. The one written with a pen, not a mic. And just like that, the internet cracked in half again. Some called him selfish. Others called it sacred. But what everyone agreed on was this: he had changed. Not rebranded. Changed. Because that's what loss does. It burns away everything, fake, until all that's left is what's real. Meanwhile, Katie's story kept moving, kept healing people. Her cousin turned the letter into a non-profit initiative, the Black Envelope, project dedicated to helping women write and share their truths before it's too late. They held workshops, read aloud, circles, therapy sessions wrapped around the idea that sometimes your goodbye can save someone else's beginning. Marcus donated quietly, no headlines. Just showed up with coffee and chairs, sat in the back, listened. One day, a woman read her letter aloud about a man she loved in silence for 6 years. When she finished, she looked up and whispered, "Thank you, KD." And the whole room cried. And yet, the story had one last beat. Jock's final act. No album, no single dot, just a note. On the anniversary of KD's passing, Jock posted a photo to his Instagram story. Not of her, not of him, of the ring, the same one he'd bought in 2018. Still unopened, still gleaming. It sat beside a lit candle and a piece of paper that read, "She was ready. I wasn't." That was it. No audio, no caption, just truth. And in that moment, for the first time in his life, Jock stopped performing and started feeling it could have ended there. The letter, the album that never released, the ring beside the candle. It should have been enough. But grief has a way of echoing. Not loudly, quietly, through voicemail tones, through the smell of someone's favorite candle you can't throw away, through the whisper of songs that were never written, weddings that never happened, and love that never stopped living long after the body gave up. Jock didn't vanish. Not this time. He just changed lanes, left the studio, stopped hosting club nights. He started showing up where no one expected him: schools, shelters, community centers, not as young Jock, but as Jay, wearing hoodies, no chain, no entourage. When asked why, he'd just say, "I owe something to a woman who taught me what love sounds like when it's quiet." The impact of KD's story outgrew celebrity. Her letter started being used in high school writing classes. Therapists printed it out and handed it to clients who didn't know how to begin their own goodbyes. Even preachers quoted her final words in sermons about forgiveness. But no one talked about the voicemail. Only 2 people ever heard it in full: Marcus and Jock. And that's where the story curved in a way no one expected. A month after the ring photo, Jock reached out to Marcus. A private message. No fanfare, no apology tour, just one line: "Can I talk to you?" It took Marcus 3 days to reply. They met at a small cafe in Atlanta, off the beaten path. No cameras, no chaos. Just 2 men, carrying the memory of the same woman in different parts of their chest. No one knows the exact words exchanged in that meeting. They sat for hours, drank coffee that went cold. There was laughter. There were tears. And at the end, a handshake. Not of agreement, but of mutual recognition, the kind only 2 people can share when they've both been loved by the same hurricane. What leaked, however, was what Jock said before they parted. "She was peace for you. She was purpose for me. And I ruined both." Marcus didn't correct him because truth doesn't always need edits, and somehow, from that moment, the story became less about who KD loved more and more about who finally learned how to love because of her. 1 week later, a new IG page appeared, anonymous at first. Just black and white photos. A Polaroid of a teacup, a blurry image of a notebook. Then came the caption: "Letters don't die, even when people do." The account exploded. Followers poured in, guessing who ran it. Was it Tamara, a fan? One of KD's close friends. Then came the bombshell. The page posted a video. It was the second half of KD's flash drive. The part Jock never finished watching. The part she never meant for the world to see. But that somehow found its way out. It started with her looking straight into the camera, face soft, voice even quieter than before. "If you're still watching, then I guess you stayed." She smiled. That half smile she used to wear when Jock made her laugh even when she didn't want to. "I left the first half for you, Jock. But this part is for me." She inhaled. Long, deep, steady. Like it took everything inside her just to speak. "I spent most of my life loving loud people. People who needed the room, the applause, the drama. And I never realized how much of my silence was actually survival. Loving you, Jock, taught me how to fight for someone. Loving Marcus taught me I didn't need to fight to be seen. And somewhere in the middle of those two men, I found myself. The comments section erupted. The video hit 2 million views in 24 hours. And, for the first time in viral history, it wasn't chaos, people shared it was clarity. She continued, if you're watching this and you're still waiting for someone to choose you, stop, choose yourself. Don't write letters to people who won't read them until you're gone. Say it now. Say it while you're still breathing. And then, with eyes like full moons holding back oceans, she ended with, I was never afraid to love. I was just afraid of never being loved back. But I was. In pieces. In silence. In different ways. And maybe that's enough. Screen fades to black dot. The page goes dark dot. The account deletes itself. Don't trace. No link. Nothing left but the memory of what she said. And that was the final gift. Jock, after watching the full video, didn't post a reaction. Didn't run to press. He took a plane. Not to perform. To visit her grave. Again. This time with Marcus. Together, they stood in silence. 2 men, 1 woman. No rivalry. Just grief. And they didn't bring flowers. They brought her letters. Typed copies. From women across the world who had written their own goodbyes because of her. They buried them at the base of her headstone. Hundreds. Laminated. Folded. Stained with ink and mascara. It was Tamara's idea. Let her story end with stories, not with silence. And as the sun dipped behind the trees, something shifted. Not in the air, in the men. A quiet surrender. That this wasn't about who won, it was about who learned. Jock would later say in one rare interview, I used to think loving someone meant always being there. But KD showed me sometimes. Real love means letting someone go, even when you want to hold on. He never tried to release Black Envelope again. Instead, he started mentoring young artists, taught them to listen more than they speak, told them to call the people they write about before the songs go platinum. Marcus, he didn't go back to the shadows. He helped lead the Black Envelope project full-time. Hosted writing sessions. Taught journaling to high school kids. Helped launch a scholarship in KD's name for girls who write their truth, even if no one claps. The scholarship's motto. She wrote it anyway. That's who KD became. Not a storyline, not a martyr. A movement, a moment, a mirror for anyone who's ever loved quietly, and lost quietly, and still chose to heal anyway. So now let's come back to you. Yeah, you. Reading this. Holding a memory in your throat. Ask yourself, are you loving someone in silence right now? Are you wasting good years waiting for someone to come back with answers you already have? Or maybe, you're the one who left. Quietly, because staying started to sound like self-destruction. Whichever you are, KD wrote for you. Because somewhere, in all of us, there's a black envelope, unopened, unwritten, unsent. And maybe, tonight's the night, you stop waiting, and start speaking. Because love doesn't always get a second draft. And sometimes, the most powerful story you'll ever tell, is the one you were too afraid to say out loud.